those serving, and we thank you for their service and the time that they give and the time they sacrifice away from their family. And we just thank you for them and be with them as they make decisions for the best of our community. Special prayer also tonight for Chief Hector Gonzalez's family and the loss of his mother, and also prayers for Assistant Chief Juan Rodriguez and his family for the loss of his brother. Just ask you to give them peace and give them comfort as only you can. Be with us always. In Christ's name, amen.
At this time, I don't believe we have any visitors' remarks, so I'll go ahead and move on from that. In regards to the consent agenda items, is there any consent agenda items that any of the commissioners would like me to set aside before we take a vote? If not, is there a motion?
I second.
So with that said, and just to clarify, that's all the consent agenda items 1 through 7. Is that correct? Is that the motion? That was the second as well. So with that said, all those in favor signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 And all those who oppose do the same. And motion carries. Action item number 1, consideration and action to accept the petition requesting annexation by landowners for a 34.06 acre tract located on the east side of the city of Los Fresnos and set a date and time for a public hearing. At this time, is there a motion? I'll go ahead and motion that we approve action item number 1.
I'll go ahead and second.
Okay, at this point, motion has been made. Is there any questions or comments that any of the council would like to make in regards to this, Mark?
Just comment that the public meeting will be Tuesday, January 11th at 6 p.m. We'll send those notices out where you can listen to the public's comment if there is any. Generally speaking, there's none. And then you see the rest of the reading there, but to be sure that we note that it is January 11th, 6 p.m.
And at that point, I mean, it's really only one person that lives out there, correct?
Right now, no one. It's
Or the land belongs to one person, sorry.
right. Yes, sir. I think it's a company that's several individuals, but
Do we know how many households or residents they're projecting to put out there?
have they given us the preliminary plan yet? About 50, I think. Each one has been about 50.
Oh, wow, okay. Pretty nice, okay. Any other questions or comments in regards to action item number 1?
Mark, I had a question. Have there been any environmental impact studies with regards to the drainage of all these new subdivisions? I mean, where is the drainage? Where's the water gonna go to after these subdivisions are established? And, what area of town are they gonna affect? I just have a concern that they may be draining to the same place where we're having all these problems, and I'm just curious about that.
That's a great question. All of them have to be reviewed by our engineer, but more importantly, Cameron County Drainage District number 1 out of Brownsville is who handles this area. And they're very strict, and they have their requirements are like 100-year flood, and no one does that. So they are pretty stringent upon them either having on-site detention or widening the existing drainage ditches. The phase 3 and 4 behind us here goes into this drainage ditch, but it goes after all of the East 10th and Alvarez Court, 9th Street areas. But if too much goes there, well, then it'll bottleneck it back. So what they made them do is on-site detention as well as widen the drainage ditch so that it handles more capacity and to prevent what you're talking about. As they go forward, they'll have to do the same on this subdivision before it's the preliminary plat or the final plat are approved. The one across the street from us, they have to do some on-site detention as well as that drainage ditch from here back to the canal where Holiday Out used to be. Now it's Siesta RV Park. They're going to widen that drainage ditch quite a bit to handle more of that flow.
Okay, thank you, Mo.
Great question, because
Hey, start thinking
drainage.
about that. More and more people start moving in and how they're gonna adjust for that, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, at this point, is there any last questions or comments that any of the council has?
To continue on that drainage question, is there a way we can discuss, or you can discuss with the Drainage District number 1? Because I know they have a lot of the Bronzeville issue too, so I can see how they can be overwhelmed on dealing with an issue at the moment when it happens, right? But is there a way where we can get the whole ditch rather than going section by section, widening and having that drainage district, whether it's an intragovernmental, to be able to make a better assessment on that? I know it is kind of all going into the same area. We're gonna have a lot of water flow. And with that, that's my main concern, is we're gonna be building houses, sections at a time, but we need to make sure that we can cover that and we don't have to worry about it for the next 20 years.
That's what they do when they look at a subdivision. They look at the existing and the addition with it. And if there's any problem, then the extra that has to be done into either detention, which is detention is holding it for a while on the property and then it draining off, or expanding the ditches themselves. And so they calculate all of that as they approve those. If you get a rain with just a lot in 2 hours like we have earlier in the year, you know, even the best of drainage can't provide for that.
I know here, like Alvarez Court, 10th Street, there's a lot of 90s that it hits, right? So it's gonna hit that wall and it's gonna back flood up. If we can't get that flowing off into that canal faster, we're just backflowing everything off of those intersections. We got a lot of 90s in that area, with the velocity of the canal coming down across Highway 100. Unless we can fix all that corner and into that main ditch, it's still gonna be an issue with that water rising.
Yeah, like I can get with them on additional looks at it, but once again, they look at it on a 100-year flood and make the developer provide for enough drainage to handle that. Now, whether it's accurate or not, that's another question. But
Is this development going off of a master plan also, or just trying to see how the growth is going to happen in the future? Are we going to go 30 acres, 50 acres, or is this something that developers kind of already have in mind?
excuse me, I didn't understand the question.
So we're going to approve 30 acres, you
Correct.
know, in terms of at least to get the notice out and everything. But in terms of future growth, is this going off of a master plan where it's going to connect somewhere else? Maybe this neighborhood into another section and phases. So is that available to us?
Yes, they have a master plan and, but they can't develop the whole thing and so I don't know how to explain it any different that if there's not enough drainage for a particular phase to be done, well, then they have to dig a big hole or widen the ditch to provide for adequate drainage so that it doesn't flood other people out.
Village East has a retention pond, I think, out there.
Right. Village East has a detention pond, and what that does is hold that water there before it comes this way so that it doesn't impact all of this along here, east, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. And in fact, one of the things that the engineer looked at and wanted to change, and we said, no, we didn't change, we can't change that, is there's a piece where it actually goes uphill for a bit. And the reason for that is it holds water back until it gets up so high, and then it allows for the drainage to come on, trying to not, Village East to not impact in here. And really, if you look at history, it doesn't seem that anything has impacted, so they're doing good on each development of not impacting worse. The problem is East, 9th, 10th, and Alvarez is the lowest part in the whole city by quite a bit.
A word of caution, Mr. Mayor, if I may address the council. The item has to do with requesting an annexation petition, and we've somehow gone into water issues. And there's an opening for that to be considered at the public hearing, so I suggest we kind of get back into whether accept or not accept the petition. So we're not involved.
Thank you very much. Now, with that said, we've made a motion and we've got a second. So if there's not any additional questions in regards to this, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor who approve action item number 1, signify by raising your hand or saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And all those who oppose, do the same. And motion does carry. Thank you. Action item number 2, consideration and action to approve change order number 1 for the water treatment plant expansion project. At this moment, is there a motion to be made?
I move that we approve the change order number 1.
I'll
for
second
the,
that motion.
Treatment.
Okay, motion has been made. It seems like motion has been seconded. At this time, is there any questions, comments, or discussion anybody would like to do on the council? If not, we'll go ahead and take a vote. If all those in favor, since motion has been made, raise your hand and signify by saying aye if you approve.
Aye.
Aye, and all those who oppose do the same. Motion does carry. Number 3, consideration and action on the selection of mayor pro tem for a 1-year term. Before we get into discussion, is there a motion to be made?
I guess I move that we select a mayor pro tem for a 1-year term.
And I go ahead and second that. Oh, and I guess we have to find somebody. Okay, I didn't know if we were going to do that. So at this time, Andres Lopez has been the mayor pro tem for a year. When does it come to? Once a year. And what date is that though?
It comes with the election, and then, I'm sorry, it comes with the election, and then the next meeting we do that once the council is seated. The next regular meeting.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to be on this meeting. We can do it on next meeting.
Excuse me?
It's not necessary to make the decision today. We can make it on next meeting.
No, it's on the agenda item to take action today. So today we make a decision. With that said, I know Mr. Lopez does a great job. The only thing is Mr. Lopez, sometimes when we have events, he doesn't go. And so I'm not sure if you want to still consider him. I think he's great, but I don't know if anybody has a suggestion of
I'd
anybody
be
else?
happy to
requirements?
step down.
See, with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and nominate a mayor pro tem, and I'm gonna nominate Gabby Fernandez as mayor pro tem. Anybody second that?
I
I'll
second.
go ahead and second it.
Okay, motion has been made and then seconded as well. With that said, all those in favor of making Gabby mayor pro tem for 1 year, raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all those who oppose, do the same. Motion carries. Action item number 4, consideration and action to approve a resolution voting for a person to serve on Cameron Appraisal District Board of Directors, position 9. So before we make a motion on this, there's an attachment that has been provided that shows, out of the 4, there's one of them that is not wanting to do this anymore, if I'm not mistaken. Is that Juan Rivera, Mark? Is that correct? No, it's Ricardo Morado. So from there, we have to choose George Ledesma, Alan Ozuna, Juan E. Rivera, and they've attached 2 of the candidates' resumes for the council to review. At this time, does anybody make a motion on any of the candidates that has been being presented today? Mark, is this for a 1-year term as well, or what is this term for?
Yes, sir.
I move that we nominate Alan T. Ozuna for the Cameron Appraisal District Board of Directors. Does anybody second that?
I second.
Okay, motion has been made. All those in favor signify by raising your hand or saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And all those who oppose, do the same. I'm not sure, I didn't get Gabby's vote, I didn't get Mr. Munoz's vote, or...
I'll abstain.
Okay, voted yes. Okay, so, Commissioner, was your,
I abstain.
he abstains his vote. So at this point, we do have enough to approve Alan Ozuna, and with that said, motion carries. Consideration and action to discuss and establish priorities, visions, and goals. Now, this is something that we're just going to talk about. Is that correct, Mark? Just so we can get some of the new council up to date with what's going on?
Yes, sir, correct. I put in my comments if we could skip this one and go to my city manager report, because it'll tell us about the existing projects, and then we can go back, because of the new folks might not know what projects we have, and then we can go back into this.
Okay, so
If that's
basically,
okay.
the acknowledgement of city manager reports is what we'll be discussing. So we'll go ahead and skip number 5, is that correct?
Yes, sir, if it's your wishes, and then go back to it.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and just skip it and we'll come right back to it. At this time, I guess we'll go ahead and acknowledge the city manager's reports, and Mark, I'll leave that open to you.
Okay, I tried to include, I usually don't have this many items on it, but I tried to include every single project that we've got working from one part or another. And it's not that we need to decide anything on any of those projects right now, but it's to let you know that, hey, this is something that we've been working on, sometimes a very long time, and sometimes not very long, some of them. But I was pretty detailed, but if you have any questions on those, because we've got water, we've got wastewater, we've got the areas where we annexed to the west where that needs to be done, and we should go out for bids on that in January, and then just all of the other projects that we're doing currently. One of them, if you skip down to F, drainage, the council approved that funding for drainage, and it hits three areas. Number one, what I call the old Falcon Lake or Resaca Escondida. And that will be a gated drain. And the reason why it's graded directly to Luis's comment is, where's that water's coming? Well, we will let that water hold until the rain's over. And after 2 hours, that ditch is empty again. So on that piece, that'll help drain that area, but it'll also do it in a way where it won't impact the south here. The other piece is Whipple Road area and Valle Alto. In the past, there's been a couple of times where water has gotten into homes. The last few times it hasn't, because we redid that
Where
drainage
exactly would-
ditch and the detention area.
Where exactly would that be?
Between Canal Street and Valle Alto. It kind of holds up because of the irrigation canal. All of that drains from Valle Alto, from the railroad tracks to the west, and there's a detention pond. We got District 1 out of Brownsville, the drainage district, to clean that. And then it goes to the south down between the school administration office and the property of Peterson Construction, and then O'Reilly's as it goes to 100. So that'll provide some funding to fix that. The other piece to that is the Bayview, the drainage canal being put under, the irrigation canal being put underground. The agreement we made is then we can use that area for drainage, so we can widen that ditch that goes along between the school office and Peterson Construction property. So that'll all help. So that's funded in that drainage. The other piece that's really important is a drainage study for our city that puts the drainage pieces together, the things that we own and manage, the things that Drainage District 1 owns and manage, the things that Drainage District 4 owns and manage, which is once you get to Henderson Road north, and then things that TxDOT owns and manages, as well as identifying things, and there's quite a few of them that no one claims. And so all of that will be done in that drainage study, as well as here, the area along East 9th, 10th, and Alvarez Court, to say, hey, what can be done to resolve that issue. Another thing. Well,
One sec.
I'll wait on that.
I know there's lift stations going down 1575. I know I'm new, but are those connected to us or the city anyway, or is that any future?
Yes. Yes, but that's not drainage, that's sewer.
Because I know you're mentioning all that drainage 4 area. Because I'm assuming with the problems, it would give our lift stations problems.
Yes, that's item number K. Stanford Road and 1575 drainage and sewer. You might say, why do we care about drainage there? Because it's outside the city. The reason why we care about that is because it floods so bad in that area that our manholes get underwater. And if there's even a crack or just a little bit, water seeps in there and will overwhelm. What it does is overwhelms our system. And so the system's working. It's just not only pumping sewer water, it's pumping rainwater. So when those people at Stanford Road came to here, we hit like 48 of our manholes in that area to, not 48, I'm sorry, that's $48,000. It was about 23 of our manholes in that area where they redid them and weatherized them so that they it don't leak. Good thing is it solved the problem. We've had 2 huge rains since then, and those folks have not had backups. The drainage still is not fixed totally. TxDOT has started working in that area, and because the sad thing about it is there's drainage outlets a quarter mile from each one of that intersection.
And like you said, it's not part of our city, but does that drainage come through here too?
That drainage goes to the north. That's where it switches at Henderson Road, and from Henderson Road north drains to the north into Drainage District number 4. Henderson Road south pretty well all comes either this ditch here, this one, or the one by O'Reilly's. Of course, there's another ditch several down on the other side of the school property, when I say school, where the stadium is, and towards 803. So the reason why that is important is we do have funding to address kind of what you're talking about on the drainage, because when they do that study, they'll put it all together and say, hey, we've got in a 50-year flood, we have this much water coming down that ditch. We need to provide either for a larger ditch or a larger detention somewhere, and that they'll be able to then make recommendations to us to resolve those.
Yeah, what, I think if, since it's right now county, just have them aware, obviously, I know we're gonna work on this drainage study. Because I know there are more houses being built, so they're gonna run into the same situations, in terms of water flows, and if that is something we're servicing in the future, that way we kind of get a jump on it now.
I didn't hear the first part.
Well, just in case so that the county knows and is aware also, because there are building a lot of subdivisions out there, and it's just kind of aware of all that water flow and how it's coming off too. Because I thought it actually would come this way, but now that I know it's Henderson that way, really we still have a service them with our infrastructure. So as long as we don't have to worry about that, because I know those pumps are not cheap and you can't get them overnight.
Correct.
Mark, in regards to Escalante Road, I know that the last time we discussed that, there was some talk about looking at the deeds to see what was on there as far as who's responsible for what. What has come about since then? Has there any new information?
Yes, I have the information surveyed, and a lot of the portion is of Escalante Road is actually owned by the school district. So I've had a meeting with the school district to see if they would provide that, release that property for an official road easement. They're looking at it. Part of probably what they'll want us to come to an agreement with is they own a lot of that section in there from Escalante Road to the south to Highway 100. And many of those areas have old road right-of-ways from when the old town site was set up there that have never been closed. So probably, I mean, they haven't said it, but probably they will be willing to give here as long as we can get those others closed, because right now they can't officially build over those pieces or utilize that because it's still a road right-of-way. Will never be used, but the people on Escalante Road didn't want those closed whenever there wasn't a resolution on Escalante Road. I'm looking at a couple of different alternatives. One of the problems where you turn from 1575 on Escalante Road, there's just not enough property there. There's only like 17 feet from the school property to the building, really. And that's not really enough for a proper road. It may be that that's closed from 1575 and becomes a private drive for those there's 4 homes that are there. It can become a private drive for them since it's on their property anyway, and the rest of Escalante Road be served to the north coming out on Whipple Road, or there's a potential coming out on Evergreen Street that we're looking at that could connect and give them an outlet.
I think the Whipple Road one would be a good one because it, you know, it stops and then there's plenty of room there to, if I'm thinking the right one, it's the one where the road ends, right? And then it's like dirt road. Is that what you're referring to on Whipple Road? I'm trying to think where on Whipple Road it would connect.
It would connect right between the apartments and the house before the Resaca.
Those trees and that brush that's there would cut through there. Okay.
Is that annexed already?
We only actually own behind those first 4 homes on Escalante Road. There's only one other that is in the city limits. There's probably 10 or 12 homes on down Escalante Road that is part of the county, and we don't service that now. To make a road flipped, to come out there, we would have to, well, I'm trying to determine what's the best way, because you would basically have to tell me that I want you to do that and spend a lot of time on getting easements to make that happen for those folks, even though it's in the county area. It's a difficult thing
complex.
because today it's like it's a private driveway, just like it's a private, very, very long driveway. Why they never resolved it years ago, I don't know. They should have.
We may have to.
We may have to do it and get the county involved to see how we can make that happen.
Well, if anything, those houses after those 4 or 5, right, that are there, or if they want to use, like you mentioned, a private road, then at that point we can worry about everything being built that way.
That would be my preference, is that it be flipped either off to Evergreen or off to Whipple, and those first 4 homes served by there, and then there would be a fence to where people can't get on past, but they have option to get to their homes.
Where on Evergreen would it be proposed if it was?
It could come out of either side of the drainage ditch.
So like by the apartments or on the other side closer to Walmart?
Between the apartments and Walmart, right about the center is a drainage ditch. I'm got a meeting, I've talked to one of them already, one owner on the north and one owner on the south. And my discussions with them is just, hey, do you have any plans for that development, like where they would put a street? Yes or no? Yes, we do. Well, then could we attach it to Escalante Road and maybe we participate? He's going to have to give up the land for a road for them at some point, maybe not today, but maybe we would participate some way in the paving of that road, partially or fully, or, that's all to be determined, where it's a win-win for us, for the residents of Escalante Road, but it's also a win-win for the developer because
Yeah,
he's going to need a road anyway.
Commercial property can lead to building. Okay.
Without going into too much detail, how much, the wider road, obviously, right, maybe? They would need a wider road, is it heavier? No, it'd be the same kind of.
About the same kind, yeah.
Mark, the last thing I wanted to ask you about was, I know that we have some residents on East 10th and East 5th Street that have complained about the rain and the sewage, and I know we're working on finding ways to prevent that from happening. I know we received those COVID funds. Is there any progress in regards to getting the project started, as what we had discussed?
The only COVID project that we're trying to get push forward is the one with a water tank at, the water plant. The reason why it's an easier project, it's one tank to do instead of, sewer manholes and pipes all over the whole area. The state still hasn't, and it goes through, our funds go through the state to the feds, and there's still not a clear direction of who's gonna approve it and when we can do it and how we're supposed to bid that. So, we did get some documentation today that Pablo's working through to see, when we can do the project. The actual COVID funds to do the manholes and the pipes, we need to wait until the bids come in for the sewer extension to, the west to, 1575 and then up around the Escalante area. We want to be sure that funds first. If there's extra funds needed from COVID funds, we'll use those, and then the rest of it we'll know, to put it all in for that area that we were talking about.
Thank you, Mark.
One more question, Mark, on the hike and bike trail. I haven't been on it. Is it ready to go? No.
No, they have been using their folks on Henderson Road and not on the hike and bike trail. They've just got too many projects, and I don't want them to do the hike and bike trail until Henderson Road's finished. We're hoping in a couple weeks. They're waiting today for some compaction tests to come back, and then hopefully they'll be able, if they get it back in the next day or two, we'll be able to pave next week and open that road back up, and then they can then move here, and it should be 2 weeks out to pave. From whenever that time is, it should be 2 weeks out to pave the section from the park to here.
Going to be pavement.
Right. And then they'll immediately then start from 100 to 10th Street and then out to 1847.
Mark, in regards to Highway 100, just one thing. I know that the construction has been affecting the businesses that are centrally located there in town on 100 and Paredes Line Road or Ocean Boulevard. It says here that it's moving, so are they getting ready to complete that middle area and they're moving out towards O'Reilly from the railroad tracks? Is that what this line item I says?
Yeah, they're putting, I think, the last layer of caliche and base on this side, which would be the southeast corner. They're well along, and then they'll pave it. They're well along on the other side, because they're kind of doing them a little better than they have the others. And so as soon as they get this side done, then they'll have to change the intersection a little bit to get to the center, and they'll finish up that one, and then I'm hoping by the end of January the whole intersection will be open and freely travel like it used to be.
You know, in regards to the construction, there's a little part of it where that IBC ATM is, that little intersection that takes you by the old emergency management building. Right there, if you're coming out from where the insurance place is, there's a stop sign that's been pushed out a little bit because of the construction. A lot of times when there's cars lined up, it's hard to see the other cars coming one way. And so it seems dangerous, you know, so I'm not sure who's taking care of the flow of traffic, but I know that there's a lot of dangerous places. It's like a blind side. So I don't know if they've taken those into consideration. There's been close call accidents there on that intersection. It's in regards to the construction.
I will let him, text that guy know and be aware of that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any of the
I have
councilors?
one question, Mark. I remember at one time we were talking about the covering up of that canal that runs from Simon's place all the way to 1847. where are we with that? And, because we said that would also help with drainage and that we could use that canal that goes by the side. And you also said that once it was covered up, it could also be used for the hike and bike trail.
Correct. We're having a pre-construction meeting on Thursday morning. And so the contractor is ready to begin, and he will put that canal underground from O'Reilly's to Nogales Street is what it's funded through. And so then there's a 100-foot right-of-way there. The pipe will be here, and so we can clean that ditch between there and Mr. Peterson's property, and then expand that ditch at that time with the monies I was referring to available that y'all approved from Water Development Board.
And the drainage district was still gonna pay for some of that, right? If I remember correctly?
I didn't hear you.
The drainage district, they were gonna partially finance that?
The Drainage District?
Yeah,
No, sir.
no? Okay.
No, it's about a 50-50 grant loan, 50% grant and 50% loan at 0% interest.
Okay. Couldn't recall that. I thought maybe the drainage district was gonna be involved with the financing.
I
but
wish.
I hear they don't have much money. All right, thank you.
Is there any more questions that any of the council has in regards to, there's a lot of different things going on in this city manager's reports.
I see street repairs right at the bottom. I'm like, we're not gonna be doing anything yet until all the building, construction on Highway 100's done? Or is that something we're still doing in the meantime? I know some spots are getting torn up more than others.
Yeah, where it's a little damaged, it has gotten worse very quickly because of the rain and the traffic. Hanson hopes to have everything ready to go out for bid in January or February. I can get a timeline from them better to see when that would be. I hate to put it off any longer, but that'll be your call whether we want to wait until all of the TXDOT construction is over and then let the project.
I know you mentioned by a certain time they're gonna finish the intersection. They're gonna jump to the back end, or they're just gonna continue going down?
They're gonna jump to the west side of the railroad and finish that area on the north half from the railroad to O'Reilly's. And then they'll come back and do the north half on the east section from McDonald's to here. Then they'll open all of that north side up and start on the south side. They claim by July.
Wasn't it April?
It was originally April.
Okay, and they said they were on track to close by April. So now it's July?
Yeah, and we said there's no way, I know we've had the comment here about there's no way it's still April whenever it took them 6 months to do that first little piece. And so now they finally have updated their project status, and they say July.
Sounds good. Is there any other items from the city manager's reports? Any of the council would like to discuss? If not, I'll go ahead and make a motion to acknowledge the city manager's reports.
So moved.
Motion has been seconded. All those in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. Going back to consideration and action to discuss and establish priorities, visions, and goals. At this point, Mark, is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, just from the conversations, I I think it'd be appropriate for me to see if I can get, Scott Fry, he's the engineer for Cameron County, Drainage District Number 1. It's kind of a goal to get him to come visit with you and especially with the East 8th, 9th, 10th, Alvarez Court area and how that impacts. And then he can also give you a better feel for how they look at subdivisions and the runoff and how they plan and show the impacts of a new development onto the existing drainage and what they require to be done before they approve those subdivisions. I think that would be good to know. Just even if we had no problem here, it would be just good for you to know and get a good feel for that, but also that we can have them, how can we address to get some relief? What happens, there's just so much water and it's so low there in those areas, reason why the issue. So there has to be some way that they and our team, when we get this funds to study ours, can come up with a resolution to that. So I'll just add that first, because I know we've already talked about
We
that.
can include that on the meeting where we have the, where we get to talk about that. I think you said it was coming up on the next one, is that correct? Or we'll have the, or we'll bring up that particular project, right? The one that's, you're talking about the 36 acres, right? To like kind of go over Drainage District Number 1 and the effects of the proposed reading that we did on action item number 2. Is that correct? Is that why you would bring them in then?
No, I was bringing them in for what Luis was commenting on. I'll see if he can be at the next meeting, but
okay.
I don't know that he's available that one, but I'll see if he can.
Okay, thank you. So I guess at this point, this is not anything to approve. This is just to acknowledge. Is that correct, Mark? Or just to kind of let it
Just,
be?
give me thoughts, and if you have them, you can call me later, email me, text me, and say, hey, I don't want to say it here, but I would love to see.
What, just getting him here is, I think, would be a good thing, at least so that he kind of not understands, but I know he's a very busy man and, in need across the county, but I think it's a good idea just to have him see, the Mr. Fry, the engineer man. I don't know if he would need to come specifically for these 30 acres, but like you said, the bigger picture, the bigger vision picture of the drainage program that's happening. I mean, that'd be a good project.
You're talking about Drainage District Number 1? Yes. Okay, yeah, that's what I said. I would get with him so he can have a presentation for you at some future meeting, so that you can be comfortable with what they do. Just so you know, Drainage District Number 1 is known to be the harshest as far as drainage requirements in the whole Rio Grande Valley. So that is good. So that means that these subdivisions that are coming in here, whatever they're doing is much more stringent than anybody does in the valley. It's in a way, you could say it could be a deterrent for development, because the more drainage you require and the more restrictions you put on, the harder it is to develop and the more expensive it is to develop. We're not having that problem, so I don't think that it's an issue, but they are the strictest of their policies in the whole valley.
It's great to know. Now, as far as consideration action, there's nothing that we're voting on, so we'll just go ahead and let it be, because there's not it was just a discussion. So we'll go ahead and move on from that. At this moment, moving on to the acknowledgement of the department head reports. I motion that we approve or we acknowledge the department head reports.
I move that we go ahead and acknowledge the city department head reports.
Okay, so motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion any of the council would like to make in regards to any of the items that are listed on here?
For Luis and Gabby, if there's questions, you know, we can go through this. You can set up a time where it's convenient for you, and there's a lot of data. It's just mainly information though. So you can know, are we really patching holes? I see holes, and yeah, I don't know how many tons of patch we've done, but a bunch. Just so that you know that it's got a lot of data, and I can help you, you know, what does all this mean? And I'll be glad to do that.
Well, appreciate it, Mark. Maybe one day when I'm off for the holidays.
Will be good.
So with that said, motion has been made and seconded. At this moment, all those who approve of acknowledging the department head reports, raise your hand and signify by saying aye if you approve. Aye. And all those who oppose, do the same. Motion carries. At this moment, it is 6:51, and we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you and have a good evening.